I raised my son alone, worked double shifts, skipped meals, gave him everything I had. He was my whole world. Then, one morning, I opened Facebook and saw his wedding. Beautiful venue, fairy lights, his stunning bride glowing in white. But I wasn't in a single photo. No invite, no call, just a lie spread to everyone. Mom's too sick to come. The silence crushed me until I uncovered the real reason they erased me, a multi-million-dollar family secret built on lies and fraud. What I did next? Quiet, calculated, unstoppable. This is my story of betrayal, heartbreak, and the revenge that brought their empire to its knees. If you love raw, emotional, Reddit-style revenge, stay till the end. It's worth it. Picture this. It's a quiet Saturday morning in early fall. The kind of morning where the sunlight filters through the blinds just right. And for a split second, everything feels like it could still be okay. My name is Elena Thompson, 52 years old, single mom, waitress at a little diner off Route 41 in suburban Chicago. I've lived in the same modest two-bedroom apartment for almost 20 years. The walls are covered in photos, mostly of my son, Marcus. From his gap-toothed kindergarten grin to his college graduation, arms thrown around me like he was his whole world. That was the life I knew. Simple, hard-earned, but mine. I raised Marcus alone. His father walked out when I was barely 21, 6 months pregnant, with nothing but a duffel bag and a promise he'd send money soon. He never did. I worked double shifts, days at the diner, nights cleaning offices, so Marcus never had to go without. New cleats for soccer, braces when his teeth started crowding, that used car when he turned 17 so he could drive to his part-time job. I missed birthdays sometimes because I was covering someone else's shift. I skipped vacations, new clothes, dating, everything, so he could have a shot at something better. And he did. God, he did. Marcus was brilliant, full scholarship to the University of Illinois, graduated top of his class in finance, landed a job straight out of college at one of those glossy investment firms downtown, the kind with glass walls and employees who looked like they stepped out of a magazine. I was so proud I could barely breathe when he told me. He moved into a sleek apartment in the city, started wearing tailored suits, talking about portfolios and market trends. Our visits got fewer, texts shorter, but I told myself that was normal. He was building his life. I'd done my job. That morning, I was sitting at my little kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg I keep meaning to fix, sipping coffee from my favorite chipped mug, the one Marcus painted for me in 3rd grade that says "World's Best Mom" in crooked blue letters. I opened Facebook on my old laptop, just scrolling mindlessly, checking in on old coworkers, liking pictures of grandbabies from women I went to high school with, smiling at dog videos. Then I saw it. A post from Karen, someone I used to work with years ago. She'd tagged a bunch of people in an album titled The Most Beautiful Wedding. I clicked, and there he was, my son, in a black tuxedo, standing under an arch covered in white roses and fairy lights, beaming, next to a woman I'd never seen before, tall, auburn hair cascading in perfect waves, wearing a wedding dress that probably cost more than I make in a year. The caption read, "Congratulations to the new Mr. and Mrs. Marcus Reynolds. What a magical day. Hashtag Sophia and Marcus. Hashtag love wins. Hashtag forever." My chest tightened instantly, like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart with an icy fist. I scrolled. More photos. Marcus sliding a ring onto her finger, their first kiss as husband and wife, cutting a 5-tier cake, dancing under string lights at what looked like a vineyard estate, rolling hills, elegant tables, champagne flutes everywhere. Her parents, polished, wealthy-looking, raising glasses and toasts. His new in-laws, smiling like they'd won the lottery. And me? Nowhere. Not in a single frame. I zoomed in on every group shot, desperate, my hands starting to shake. No familiar face, no empty chair saved for the mother of the groom, no mention, nothing. The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the linoleum floor. Hot coffee splashed across my bare feet, but I didn't feel the burn. I couldn't feel anything except this hollow, expanding ache in my gut. No invitation, no call, no text, no warning, just silence. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and dialed his number. It rang once, twice, straight to voicemail. Marcus? Honey, it's Mom, I said, my voice already cracking. I I just saw the pictures online. You got married? Sweetheart, why didn't you tell me? Call me back, please. I love you. I hung up and stared at the screen, willing it to ring. Minutes dragged into hours. Nothing. I texted, Congratulations, baby. I'm so happy for you. But why didn't I know? Why wasn't I there? Delivered. Read at 11:47 a.m. No response. I refreshed Facebook obsessively. More photos kept popping up. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years commenting, Stunning wedding, such a beautiful couple, so happy for you both. Some of them had known me for decades, known Marcus since he was in diapers, and not one had thought to mention it? Not one had asked why the groom's mother wasn't in any of the pictures? The silence wasn't just from Marcus, it was from everyone. By nightfall, I was curled on the couch in the dark, the apartment deadly quiet except for my ragged breathing. I clutched that old photo of us, graduation day, both of us laughing, my arm tight around his shoulders. Tears soaked the frame as I whispered into the empty room. What did I do wrong? The rejection hurt deeply, but the silence? That was worse. It felt like being erased, like I'd never existed at all. And as I sat there, broken and alone, I had no idea that this was only the beginning, that the real reason I wasn't invited, the truth Marcus and his new family were hiding, would soon come crashing to the surface and change everything. But that night, all I knew was pain, raw, suffocating, soul-crushing pain, and a question that echoed in my head over and over. Why wasn't I good enough to be there for the most important day of my son's life? The days that followed felt like walking through thick fog. Everything was muffled, distant, unreal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, reaching for my phone on the nightstand. The screen would glow cold and empty. No missed calls, no new messages, just the same lock screen photo of Marcus and me from 2 Christmases ago. I'd stare at it until my eyes burned, then roll over and pull the covers over my head, trying to outrun the ache in my chest. At work, I moved like a ghost. The diner was always busy on weekends, families piling in for pancakes, truckers nursing bottomless coffee, regulars who knew my name and my story. They'd ask, "How's that handsome son of yours, Elena?" And I'd force a smile that felt like glass cracking. "He's great, real busy with work." My voice sounded hollow even to me. Tips were lighter than usual. I guess people can smell despair, even through the smell of bacon grease and maple syrup. I couldn't stop looking at the wedding photos. I saved them all to a hidden folder on my laptop titled Marcus and Sophia. Every night after my shift, I'd sit in the dark with a glass of cheap red wine and scroll through them like some kind of masochist, zooming in on his face, searching for clues. Did he look truly happy, or was that smile just a little too tight? Was there a flicker of guilt in his eyes when he looked at the camera? I told myself I was imagining things, but I kept looking anyway. I started piecing together a timeline from social media. The engagement announcement had gone up 8 months earlier. Sophia in a flowing white dress on a beach at sunset, Marcus down on one knee. Hundreds of likes. Comments from people I'd known for years. "So happy for you two. She's gorgeous. About time, man." Not one person had thought to message me privately. Not one had said, "Hey, Alina, did you know?" There was a bridal shower 3 months before the wedding. Photos of Sophia surrounded by designer gifts, champagne flutes, a sash that read "Bride-to-be." Marcus's bachelor weekend in Vegas, him and his new friends in front of a private jet, arms around each other, cigars in mouth. I recognized maybe 2 faces from college. The rest were strangers, wealthy strangers. And then the wedding itself, a destination venue 2 hours outside the city. Guest list easily 200 people. I counted at least 30 mutual connections, old neighbors, family friends, even my cousin Denise, who'd babysat Marcus when he was little. Denise had posted a selfie in a lavender dress, caption, "Celebrating love." I stared at her smiling face until the screen blurred with tears. I finally worked up the nerve to call her. "Elena, honey," she answered, warm as ever. "How are you?" I swallowed hard. "I saw your pictures from Marcus's wedding. It looked beautiful." A long pause, the kind that stretches and snaps. "Oh, sweetheart, I thought you couldn't make it. Marcus said you were having health issues. Something about your heart?" My throat closed. "My heart's fine, Denise. I didn't even know there was a wedding until I saw it online." Another pause, heavier this time. "Oh my God, Elena, I'm so sorry. He told everyone you weren't feeling well and didn't want to fuss. I assumed—" I hung up before she could finish. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the phone on the counter. He'd lied. My own son had told people I was sick, too sick to attend my only child's wedding. He'd painted me as fragile, inconvenient, something to explain away. That night, I tried calling him again, straight to voicemail. I left another message, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and anger I didn't recognize. "Marcus, it's Mom, again. I heard what you told people, that I was sick. Why would you say that? Why not just tell me yourself? I deserved to be there. I deserved to know." I paused, tears sliding hot down my cheeks. "Please call me back. I just want to understand." Nothing. 2 days later, a text from an unknown number popped up while I was on break at the diner. "This is Sophia. Marcus is extremely busy settling into our new life together. He's asked me to let you know that he needs space right now. Please respect our boundaries and stop trying to contact him. Thank you." I read it 3 times, the words blurring. Boundaries, like I was some toxic ex-girlfriend, not the woman who carried him for 9 months, who walked the floor with him colicky at 3 a.m., who worked 2 jobs so he could go to college debt-free. I typed back, fingers flying. "I'm his mother. I raised him alone. I think I deserve an explanation for why I wasn't invited to my only child's wedding." Sent. Within seconds, "This number has blocked you." Blocked by my son's wife, a woman I'd never even met. I sat in the break room staring at the screen until my manager, Rosa, poked her head in. "Elena, you okay? Your tables are piling up." I nodded numbly, stuffed the phone in my apron, and went back to pouring coffee with mechanical smiles. But inside, something was shifting. The hurt was still there. God, it was crushing. But underneath it, something hotter was growing. Resentment. Real, sharp, unfamiliar anger. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. Sophia's Instagram was public, a highlight reel of luxury, private jets to Aspen, brunches at rooftop restaurants, captions dripping with humble brag, "So grateful for this life we're building." Marcus was in most of the photos now, looking polished and distant. And her parents, Victor and Lydia Harrington, old money, clunching Cub memberships, a family office that managed generous investments, the kind of people who looked down on waitresses like me, without ever saying it out loud. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, the anger coiling tighter in my stomach. I'd given Marcus everything, my youth, my dreams, my heart, and he'd chosen them, chosen their world, chosen to erase me rather than risk them seeing where he came from. The shame was suffocating, but the silence, the deliberate, cruel silence, was starting to feel like a challenge. I wasn't going to beg anymore, but I wasn't done either, not by a long shot, because deep down, a quiet, dangerous thought was taking root. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, maybe it was time I showed them exactly what happens when you underestimate a mother who's got nothing left to lose.
3 weeks. That's how long I drifted in that numb haze before the next blow landed. It was a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sky hangs low and the rain taps against the windows like it's trying to get in. I'd just gotten home from a double shift, feet throbbing, aprons still smelling like fryer oil, when I saw the envelope on the mat inside the door. Thick cream paper, my name and address typed in elegant font. Return address, a law firm downtown I'd never heard of. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a cover letter on heavy letterhead, polite and clinical. It explained that my son, Marcus Reynolds, and his wife, Sophia Reynolds, were streamlining their estate planning now that they were married. Enclosed was a quitclaim deed transferring ownership of my house, the little ranch-style home I'd bought 15 years ago with every penny of overtime and inheritance from my own mother, to Marcus as sole owner. They wanted me to sign it. No phone call, no discussion, just a notary page and a self-addressed stamped envelope. I read it twice, 3 times, standing in the hallway with rain dripping from my coat onto the floor. The house where Marcus took his first steps, where we painted his bedroom navy blue because he was obsessed with astronauts, where I planted the maple tree in the front yard the day he started kindergarten. They wanted it for estate planning. My knees gave out. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the cold tile, the papers crumpling in my fist. A sound came out of me I didn't recognize. Half sob, half scream. The kind that rips your throat raw. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the rain to stop and the streetlights to flicker on outside. Long enough for the neighbors' TV laughter to filter through the walls. Eventually, I stood up, legs shaking, and did the only thing I could think of. I drove to their condo. It was in one of those new high-rises downtown. Glass and steel, valet parking, a doorman in a crisp uniform who looked me up and down like I might be delivering food. My old Corolla looked ridiculous parked out front. I didn't care. "I'm here to see Marcus Reynolds," I told the doorman, trying to keep my voice steady. He picked up the phone, murmured something, then nodded. "You can go up to the lobby, ma'am. Someone will meet you." Someone. Not my son. Minutes later, the elevator doors slid open, and there she was, Sophia. In person, she was even more polished than the photos. Tailored cream slocks, silk blouse, hair swept into a flawless low bun. She smelled like expensive perfume. Her smile was small, practiced, and didn't reach her eyes. "Elena," she said, like we were distant acquaintances, "this is unexpected." I clutched my purse strap so hard my knuckles went white. "Where's Marcus?" She sighed, soft and theatrical, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Elena, I understand this is emotional for you, but Marcus has made it clear he needs space right now. Coming here unannounced isn't helping." The words hit like slaps. Emotional, unannounced, like I was unstable, intrusive. I stepped closer. "I got papers today, asking me to sign over my house. My house, Sophia, the one I raised him in. Did he even read them before he sent them?" Her expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. "That's a private family matter. Marcus is simply trying to protect his assets now that we're building a future together." "His assets?" My voice cracked. "That's my home, everything I have." She glanced toward the doorman, who was pretending not to listen, then back at me, lowering her voice. "Look, Elena, let's be honest. You and Marcus come from different circumstances now. Our family has certain standards, expectations. It's better for everyone if we keep things clean and separate." Different circumstances? Standards? I felt the blood drain from my face. "You think I'm not good enough for your world. That's why I wasn't invited to my own son's wedding." She didn't deny it, just smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her sleeve. "Marcus made his choice. He's moving forward. I'd suggest you do the same." I stared at her, this stranger who'd inserted herself between me and the person I loved most, and something inside me shattered completely. My voice came out low, trembling. "What did you tell him about me? What lies did you feed him to make him do this?" For the first time, her mask slipped, a flash of disdain. "I didn't have to tell him anything. He knows where he came from, and he knows where he's going. You're holding him back." The lobby spun. I took a step back, the air too thick to breathe. As I turned to leave, I heard her murmur to the doorman, just loud enough for me to catch. Please make sure she's escorted out, and keep an eye out in case she returns. Some people don't understand boundaries. Some people. I made it to my car before the tears came, hot, furious, uncontrollable. I gripped the steering wheel until my hands ached, sobs tearing out of me in waves. When I finally drove home, I didn't even remember the route. That night, I broke things. A vase from my mother, a picture frame. I hurled them against the wall and watched them shatter, glass sparkling on the carpet like cruel stars. Then I sank to the floor among the pieces and cried until there was nothing left. Rock bottom. But in that darkness, something shifted. Lying there among the wreckage, chest heaving, I felt the pain harden into something else, something cold, sharp, unbreakable. They thought I was weak, pathetic, disposable. They thought I'd just sign the papers and disappear quietly. They thought wrong. Because in that moment, staring at the ceiling through swollen eyes, a single clear thought cut through the chaos. I'm done begging. I'm done being silent. And if they want to treat me like I don't exist, then maybe it's time I become the shadow they never saw coming. The morning after the confrontation in that gleaming lobby, I woke up before the sun. No tears this time, no pounding heart, just a strange, heavy calm, like the quiet right after a storm passes, and you realize the damage is done, but you're still standing. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Eyes puffy, skin dull, hair limp. I looked beaten, and for the first time, that made me angry in a way I'd never felt before. Not hot, screaming anger, cold, focused, the kind that settles in your bones and whispers, enough. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. No more scrolling through their perfect photos like a punished dog begging for scraps. This time, I had a purpose. I started small, practical. I joined a gym, the cheap one near the diner with cracked mirrors and clanking weights. The first workout nearly killed me. My lungs burned, my legs shook, but I kept going. Every rep was a silent promise. I'm not done. Every drop of sweat felt like washing away the shame they'd dumped on me. Next, I signed up for online courses, free ones at first, personal finance, basic investing, how to read legal documents. Then I paid for a few on digital research and privacy laws. Nights that used to be spent crying over wedding albums became hours of note-taking, highlighting, learning their language. Marcus worked in high-stakes finance now. Fine, I'd learn enough to follow the trail. I changed how I looked, slowly, cut and dyed my hair, dark chestnut instead of the mousy graying brown it had become. Bought clothes that fit properly, not just whatever was on the clearance rack. Nothing flashy, just tailored, clean lines. I dropped 15 pounds in 2 months. People at the diners started saying, "Alina, you look 10 years younger. What's your secret?" I'd smile and shrug, just taking better care of myself. But the real shift was happening inside, in the dark, where no one could see. I created fake social media profiles, generic names, no photos, just enough activity to look real. I followed Sophia's friends, her cousins, people who worked at her father's firm. I joined local Facebook groups for Chicago's upscale neighborhoods. I watched, listened, learned. Sophia posted constantly, brunches at trendy spots, new designer bags, cryptic quotes about cutting out negativity. Marcus appeared less and less. When he did, his smile looked thinner, his eyes tired. Her father, Victor Harrington, was everywhere. LinkedIn articles about wealth preservation, photos at charity galas shaking hands with politicians. Lydia, her mother, chaired committees and hosted fundraisers. They were the kind of family that smiled for cameras while quietly believing they were better than everyone else. I hired a private investigator with money I'd been saving for a new car.
Nothing dramatic, just background checks, public records, credit headers. The reports started coming in. Victor's firm had a few quiet complaints filed with the SEC years ago, quickly settled. Unusual cash flows, offshore entities, nothing proven but enough smoke to make me wonder. I ran into Sophia once, completely by accident, or so she thought. It was at an upscale coffee shop downtown. I was waiting for a to-go order after a legal aid appointment about the house deed. I wasn't signing anything until I spoke to my own lawyer. She walked in with two friends, laughing loudly, designer sunglasses perched on her head, even though it was overcast. I'd lost weight, changed my hair, wore fitted jeans and a leather jacket I'd bought on sale. She didn't recognize me at first. I stood quietly in line, watching her in the reflection of the pastry case. She ordered some complicated oat milk latte, then turned to her friends and said, just loud enough for people nearby to hear, honestly, the worst part of marrying into a different background is dealing with the baggage. Some people just don't know when to let go. Her friends murmured agreement. One said, "How is Marcus's mom situation?" Sophia sighed dramatically. "Pathetic, really. Keeps trying to insert herself. We've had to be firm. Marcus says she's always been dramatic." My pulse spiked, but I didn't move, didn't flinch. I just watched her pay with a black Amex, toss her hair, and glide out like she owned the air itself. The barista handed me my coffee. "Have a great day," she said. I smiled, small, calm. "You too." But inside, something ignited. That night, I sat on my couch with the PI's latest report and a glass of water. No more wine. I was done numbing anything. The contrast hit me hard. On the outside, I was composed, eating clean, working out, learning, smiling at work. No one would guess the fire raging underneath. I thought about all the years I'd put Marcus first, how I'd worked holidays so he could have Christmas presents, how I'd cried alone when he left for college because I was proud and heartbroken at the same time, how I'd cheered louder than anyone at his graduation. And now, they saw me as baggage, dramatic, beneath them. I closed the laptop and looked around my little apartment, the one they wanted me to hand over without a fight. The walls still held his childhood drawings, faded but precious. The couch still had the dent where we used to cuddle and watch movies. They thought I was weak because I'd loved unconditionally. They thought I'd stay silent because I always had. They had no idea. Because the woman they dismissed, the tired waitress in the cheap coat, was gone. In her place was someone new, someone patient, someone who now knew exactly where to look, and someone who had absolutely nothing left to lose. The outer calm was perfect. No outbursts, no desperate calls, no scenes. But inside, the fire was steady now, controlled, growing. They underestimated me completely, and that was going to be their biggest mistake, because I was just getting started. The plan didn't come to me in a flash of rage. It arrived quietly, over weeks of late-night research, scribbled notes, and long walks where I rehearsed every step in my head. I wasn't going to scream or beg or make a scene. That's what they expected from the dramatic waitress. No. I was going to be surgical, invisible, irresistible. The first thing I did was protect what was mine. I met with a real estate attorney, a sharp woman in her 40s who took one look at the quitclaim deed and laughed out loud. They're trying to pressure you into gifting your only asset without compensation. Classic intimidation tactic. She filed a lis pendens on the title the same week, clouding it so they couldn't borrow against it or flip it without my signature, and I wasn't signing. Not yet. That was the first seed planted, small, legal, undetectable. Next, I turned to the Harrington's world, money. Victor Harrington's firm, Harrington Wealth Partners, promised exclusive access to high-yield alternative investments. Their website was all sleek videos, smiling retirees on yachts, and promises of 12 to 18% annual returns, numbers that raised my newly educated eyebrows. I'd spent months learning the basics of private equity, hedge funds, and offshore structures. Those kinds of returns, consistently, in a low interest rate environment, either genius or fraud. I started with public records. Old SEC filings showed 2 prior investigations, both closed without enforcement, but the complaints were there. Delayed redemptions, opaque accounting, investors unable to get their principal back. The PI I'd hired dug deeper. He found 3 former clients who'd signed NDAs after settlements. One of them, an elderly widow, still posted bitterly in a private Facebook group for defrauded investors. I didn't contact her directly, too risky. Instead, I created an anonymous Gmail account and sent her a short, sympathetic message. I'm researching Harrington Wealth Partners for a family member considering an investment. I've heard mixed things. Would you be willing to share your experience off the record? She replied within hours, pages of it, screenshots of statements showing phantom gains, excuses when she tried to withdraw, threats of litigation if she spoke publicly. It was enough to make my skin crawl, and enough to confirm what I'd suspected. Marcus wasn't just married into money, he'd married into a scheme, and that's why they erased me. I was the one person who knew him before the private jets and the country club smiles, the one person who might ask uncomfortable questions, who might notice when things didn't add up, who couldn't be bought or bullied into silence. They needed me gone. Fine, I'd go quiet, but not gone. I began planting seeds, tiny, traceable to no one. First, the social whispers. I used one of my fake profiles to join a local moms group Sophia was active in, posted a vague question. Anyone have experience with Harrington Wealth Partners? A friend mentioned it, but I can't find many reviews. Within days, 3 women chimed in with cautious warnings. One tagged a friend whose parents had lost access to their savings. The thread grew. Sophia never responded, but I saw her viewing it, screenshotted the little eye icon for my records. Next, the financial trail. There's a popular personal finance blog run by a guy in Chicago who loves exposing shady advisors. I sent him an anonymous tip through his encrypted submission form. Check Harrington Wealth Partners, multiple investors unable to redeem, offshore feeder funds, possible Ponzi markers, public records attached. I included links to the old SEC complaints and a redacted copy of the widow's statement, no fingerprints. A week later, he published a short post. Reader question: Is Harrington Wealth Partners too good to be true? It was cautious, no accusations, but it quoted the public complaints and asked pointed questions about transparency. The comment section filled fast, former clients crawling out of the woodwork, shares on Twitter, Reddit, local Facebook groups. Marcus responded with a polished LinkedIn post, proud of the returns we've delivered for our valued clients over 2 decades. Unfounded rumors from disgruntled individuals will not deter us. Classic deflection, but the stock of the one public company they'd taken private dipped 8% that week. Investors get nervous fast. I watched it all from the sidelines, calm on the outside, heart pounding on the inside. Then came the subtlest move of all. I mailed a plain white envelope to Marcus's office, no return address. Inside, a single printed page, the widow's redacted statement. At the bottom, in plain font, "You deserve to know what you've married." That was it. I didn't sign it, didn't threaten, just information. 3 days later, Sophia's Instagram went private. Marcus's posts stopped altogether. The PI reported tension, heated arguments overheard in their condo lobby, Sophia snapping at the doorman, Victor canceling a speaking engagement at the last minute. They were feeling it, the first cracks, but they couldn't trace any of it back to me. I'd been careful, patient, silent, and the best part? They still thought I was broken. That waitress who'd shown up crying in their lobby, begging for scraps of attention. They had no idea I'd just lit the fuse. Because these weren't attacks, they were questions. Quiet, reasonable questions that other people were now asking louder. The kind of questions that, once asked, don't go away. I sat in my apartment that night, glass of water in hand, staring at the Liz pendants confirmation on my kitchen table. My house was safe, their reputation was wobbling, and Marcus had received the first piece of truth whether he wanted it or not. A small smile tugged at my lips, the first real one in months. It wasn't revenge yet, it was groundwork, and the ground was starting to shift beneath their perfect little empire. They thought they'd buried me in silence, but silence is where I'd learned to listen, and now I was speaking their language, just loud enough for the right people to hear.
For the first time in months, I started sleeping through the night. Not because the pain was gone. It wasn't. It lived under my skin now, a constant low hum. But because I was moving, doing. Every calculated step forward dulled the ache just enough to breathe. The seeds I'd planted were sprouting faster than I expected. That little blog post questioning Harrington Wealth Partners, it got picked up by a local finance subreddit, then shared to a bigger investing forum. Comments poured in. Former clients, skeptical advisors, even a retired auditor who wrote a long breakdown of why the promised returns defied basic arithmetic. Within 2 weeks, the post had thousands of upvotes. Someone started a private Discord for Harrington investors, questions and concerns. Membership hit 47. I watched it all from a burner account, silent. Victor responded exactly how I thought he would. Arrogance masked as confidence. He posted a video on the firm's website, him in a navy suit sitting in a leather chair with the Chicago skyline behind him. Calm voice, practiced smile. In any successful firm, you'll find a small number of individuals who misunderstand the sophisticated strategies we employ. We remain fully committed to our clients and compliant with all regulations. He ended with an invitation. We welcome any legitimate inquiry. But the damage was done. Google searches for Harrington Wealth Partners now auto-completed with complaints and scam. Their phone lines were flooded. The PI told me 2 major clients, one a pension fund for city workers, had submitted formal redemption requests. Except the money wasn't liquid. It never had been. Marcus felt it first. One evening, my phone buzzed with a text from his old number, the one Sophia had blocked me on months ago. He must have used a work phone. "Mom, are you behind the online stuff about the firm? People are asking me questions at work. This needs to stop." No greeting, no apology, just accusation. I stared at the screen for a long minute, thumb hovering. Every instinct screamed to reply, defend myself, demand answers, beg him to see me. Instead, I turned the phone face down and went to the gym. 30 minutes on the stair climber, sweat pouring, music loud enough to drown thought. When I got back, I deleted the text without responding. Silence was my weapon now. Let him wonder. Sophia cracked next. Her Instagram had been private for weeks, but stories still leaked through mutual connections. Screenshots started appearing in that Discord group. Her at a restaurant, caption, "Tough times don't last, tough people do," with a prayer hands emoji. Another, a quote about false accusations from jealous hearts. Then one that made my breath catch, a blurry story of her crying in a car, makeup streaked, caption gone within minutes but saved by someone quick. The PI caught audio gold one afternoon. He'd planted a small recorder in a gift basket I'd anonymously sent to their condo. Harmless-looking, expensive chocolates, nothing suspicious. Legal in Illinois for one-party consent, and he was the one party. The recording was short, but it was everything. Sophia's voice high and frantic. "Your mother is doing this, Marcus. I know it's her. She's deranged." Marcus, exhausted. "We don't know that. It could be anyone. Dad's made enemies over the years. Don't defend her. She's trying to destroy us because you finally stood up to her controlling bullshit." A long pause. Glass clinking. Ice in a drink. Marcus, quieter. "I looked at the redemption requests today. Dad's stalling, telling people 90-day delays. Some of them are getting lawyers." Sophia's sharp inhale. "He'll handle it. He always does." "Does he?" Marcus's voice cracked, just slightly. "Because if this falls apart, it won't." Her tone turned icy. "And if you even think about throwing your father under the bus to save yourself, remember who introduced you to this life, who got you the job, the condo, the ring on my finger." Silence.
Then the sound of a door slamming. I listened to that recording 3 times, sitting in my darkened living room, heart pounding, not from fear, but from something darker. Validation. They weren't just excluding me, they were terrified of anyone who might expose the rot at the center of their perfect world. And Marcus, he was starting to see it. The pressure kept building. Victor canceled 2 speaking engagements. Lydia stepped down from a charity board to focus on family. Their country club membership went unused, too many whispers in the dining room. The PI photographed Victor leaving a late-night meeting with a crisis PR firm downtown. Face drawn, tie loosened. Redemption requests piled up. The firm sent letters citing temporary liquidity constraints due to market volatility. Investors weren't buying it. One filed a formal complaint with the SEC, then another. I added fuel carefully, another anonymous type to a business reporter at the Chicago Tribune, forwarding redacted emails from the Discord. No direct contact with me, always through cutouts. And still, I stayed invisible. No angry posts, no confrontations. I went to work, smiled at customers, hit the gym, took my courses. My manager promoted me to shift supervisor, small raise, more responsibility. Friends said I seemed lighter. They had no idea. Inside, I was steel. Every night I reviewed the timeline, the wedding exclusion, the house grab, the lies, the fraud coming to light. The stakes weren't just emotional anymore, they were existential, for them. Marcus texted again a week later. "Mom, please, Dad's firm is in trouble. Investors are pulling out. If you know anything, tell me." I didn't reply. Let the confusion eat at him. Let the paranoia spread. Because the best part, they were turning on each other now, blaming shadows, questioning loyalties. And I hadn't even shown my hand. Not yet. The facade was cracking, piece by piece, and they could hear it, but they couldn't see where the blows were coming from. They thought they'd erased me, but I was in the walls now, watching, waiting, and the real storm hadn't even started.
The air in my apartment felt different now, charged, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. I could sense the shift even when I wasn't looking at the news or the forums. It was in the way my phone stayed silent. No more desperate texts from Marcus, no frantic blocked calls, just quiet. And in that quiet, everything tightened. The SEC opened a formal investigation into Harrington Wealth Partners. It wasn't splashed across headlines yet, just a small notice buried on their website, the kind most people would miss, but the investors didn't. Redemption requests turned into demands. Demands turned into lawsuits. 3 in 1 week, then 5. The PI forwarded me the docket numbers, and I read them at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, steam curling up like smoke from a slow-burning fire. Victor stopped posting altogether. No more confident videos, no more LinkedIn wisdom. His face appeared in a grainy photo outside the federal building downtown, tie askew, flanked by lawyers, refusing to comment as reporters shouted questions. The caption on the local news site read, "Prominent Chicago investor under scrutiny for alleged Ponzi scheme." Lydia's charity circuits vanished. The spring gala she'd chaired for a decade went ahead without her, her name scrubbed from the program at the last minute. Whispers said she'd been asked to step back pending resolution of family matters. Sophia's perfect Instagram stayed dark, but the PI caught her outside a high-end salon, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky, hurrying into a waiting black SUV. Her usual confident stride was gone, shoulders hunched, glancing around like someone might be watching. They were right. Someone was. Marcus was unraveling fastest. The recorder in the gift basket had been removed weeks ago, too risky to leave long-term, but the PI switched to old-school tailing. He sent me short audio clips from public places, coffee shops, parking garages, anywhere their voices carried. One clip from the condo's underground garage. "Marcus, Dad, the auditors are coming next week. They want the full books. The offshore accounts?" Victor, sharp. "We've handled audits before. Stall them." Marcus, "We can't. Not this time. People are lawyering up. If I'd known it was this bad..." Victor, "You knew enough. You signed the partnership agreement. You spent the money. The condo, the cars, the ring." Sophia, cutting in, "Don't you dare play victim now, Marcus. You wanted this life." Marcus's voice broke. I wanted to be successful, not this. A car door slammed, engine revved, silence. I played it back twice, sitting in the dark, feeling no triumph, just a deep, aching sadness for the boy I'd raised, mixed with the cold satisfaction that the truth was finally clawing its way out. I kept feeding the fire, carefully. Another anonymous packet to the Tribune reporter, this one with redacted bank transfers showing money shuffled between entities right before investor statements were issued. No direct link to me, just concerned citizen drops in a public mailbox across town. The story grew legs. Front page of the business section. Harrington Empire teeters as investors cry fraud. Photos of furious clients outside the firm's office. One woman, the widow I'd first contacted, finally speaking on camera, face blurred, voice disguised. I promised security for my retirement. Now I can't even get a straight answer. The comment sections exploded. Old friends of Marcus's from college started posting publicly. Wait, this is Sophia's dad? Marcus, you okay, man? No replies. I reflected on it all during quiet moments, at the gym, on walks around the neighborhood, folding laundry. The pain from the wedding exclusion lived in my chest, a permanent bruise, but it didn't cripple me anymore. It fueled me. I thought about the house they'd tried to take. My lawyer had turned the tables, filed a counterclaim for fraudulent inducement, arguing emotional duress. Unlikely to win big, but enough to tie them up in court for years, enough to cost them money they no longer had freely. Multiple systems were closing in now. Criminal, SEC, possible FBI referral for wire fraud. Civil, class action lawsuit forming, dozens of plaintiffs. Social, invitations drying up, club memberships quietly revoked. Personal, marriage cracking under the weight. The PI's latest report was the clearest yet. Victor had hired private security, paranoid by protesters. Sophia had moved temporarily into her parents' Lake Forest estate. Marcus, he'd been seen checking into a mid-tier hotel downtown alone. No luggage, just a backpack. They were scattering. And still, I stayed composed. No gloating, no contact. I went to work, trained for a 5K I'd signed up for on a whim, started painting the apartment to soft sage green. Small acts of reclaiming my space, my life. But inside, the emotional payoff was brewing. Every lawsuit filed, every redemption denied, every whispered conversation in a garage or boardroom, it was for the lie that I was sick, for the lie that I was controlling, for the lie that I didn't deserve to be there when my only child said I do. I wasn't causing the collapse. They'd built it themselves. Greed layered on greed, lie on lie. I'd just removed the blindfolds, one careful nudge at a time. And now, the entire structure was groaning, one good push away from coming down. I could feel it. The end was close. Not vengeance, justice. Slow, deliberate, inevitable. They'd tried to erase me, but I was the one thing they couldn't outrun. The truth always finds its way back, and theirs was almost here. The storm finally broke on a cold Tuesday in late fall. Not with thunder, not with sirens, with headlines. The Chicago Tribune ran the story above the fold on the front page of the business section. Harrington Wealth Partners, Ponzi scheme allegations confirmed in federal probe. Below the headline was a photo of Victor Harrington leaving the federal courthouse, head down, lawyers shielding him from cameras. The article was brutal, detailed, sourced, unsparing. It laid out the evidence, fabricated performance reports, money shuffled between shell companies in the Caymans, new investor funds used to pay old ones. The SEC had frozen the firm's assets overnight. A class action lawsuit now had over 120 plaintiffs. The total claimed losses topped $87 million. I read it at the kitchen table with my morning coffee, the steam rising slowly as the words sank in. My hands were steady, no tears. Just a quiet, deep exhale, like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally let it go. The truth was out, public, irrefutable. By noon, every local news station had picked it up. CNN ran a segment. Bloomberg mentioned it in their market wrap. Social media exploded. The hashtag Harrington Fraud trended in Chicago. Former clients posted videos of themselves outside the shuttered office, holding signs, "Where's my money? Justice for victims."
Victor's carefully curated image shattered in real time. His LinkedIn profile, once filled with inspirational quotes and client testimonials, now had hundreds of comments. Thief, how do you sleep at night? Rot in prison. He tried one final post, a statement claiming full cooperation and faith in the legal process. It lasted less than an hour before the backlash buried it. He deleted his account by evening. Lydia fared no better. Her charity friends, women she'd lunched with for decades, quietly distanced themselves. The gala committee issued a press release thanking her for past service, while pointedly omitting any future involvement. Photos surfaced of her at a grocery store in Lake Forest, no makeup, sunglasses on indoors, pushing a cart like any other shopper. The queen of the social circuit reduced to anonymity. Sophia's meltdown was the most public. Paparazzi caught her leaving the family estate in a black Range Rover, windows down, screaming at photographers, "Leave me alone, this is harassment." The video went viral, her face contorted, mascara running, voice cracking. She looked nothing like the poised bride in the wedding photos. She looked desperate, cornered. And Marcus? He was the ghost in the machine. No public statements, no social media. The PI tracked him to a small apartment in the suburbs, nothing like the downtown condo. He'd been seen leaving a lawyer's office twice in 1 week, carrying a cardboard box. Colleagues at the firm said he'd been placed on indefinite leave. Some whispered he'd turned state witness to avoid charges. I watched it all unfold from my quiet apartment, still working my shifts at the diner, still smiling at regulars, still training for that 5K. No one knew. No one suspected. I was just Elena, the shift supervisor who'd lost weight and started looking put together. They didn't know I was the architect of this collapse. One evening, the PI sent me the most telling clip yet. Marcus, alone in a dimly lit parking lot outside a chain coffee shop, on the phone. The audio was clear. "I know, Dad. I know it's bad. But I didn't sign the fraudulent statements. I didn't know about the Cayman's accounts. I swear." A pause. Victor's voice, faint but furious. "You're throwing me under the bus?" "No, I'm trying to save what's left. If I cooperate, maybe they'll go easy on us, on all of us." Another pause. Then Marcus, softer. "I miss her, Mom. I keep thinking about how I treated her. The wedding, the house. I was wrong." Victor. "She's the one who started this witch hunt. You know it." Marcus. "Maybe, but maybe we deserved it." The call ended. Marcus stood there for a long moment, head bowed, shoulders shaking. Then he got in his car and drove away. I listened to that recording sitting on my couch, the apartment lit only by a single lamp. My chest ached, not with rage, but with something softer. Regret? Pity? Love that refused to die even after everything? I didn't know. I just knew it hurt. But the hurt didn't stop me. The power dynamic had flipped completely. They were exposed, humiliated, losing everything they'd built on lies. I remained composed, untouched, invisible. Friends started texting me, old neighbors, distant cousins. "Elena, did you see the news about Marcus's in-laws? Terrible. Are you okay?" I replied the same way every time. "I'm fine, just focused on moving forward." They had no idea how true that was. The anticipation in my chest was at its peak. The noose was tight. The trap had sprung. One last piece remained, the moment they realized exactly who had pulled the strings. I wasn't going to rush it. I'd waited this long, I could wait a little longer. Because when the final veil fell, when they looked up from their wreckage and saw me standing there, calm and unbroken, they would understand. They hadn't erased me. They'd awakened me. And now, the world was watching them fall, while I was finally free. I chose the place carefully. A quiet, neutral cafe in the West Loop. High ceilings, exposed brick, big windows letting in pale winter light. Public enough that they wouldn't make a scene, private enough that we could speak without interruption. I booked a corner table under a fake name and arrived 20 minutes early, ordering a chamomile tea I didn't drink. My hands were steady, my heart was loud, but steady. They arrived together, Marcus and Sophia. No Victor, no lawyers, just the two of them, looking like they hadn't slept in weeks. Marcus was thinner, the tailored suits replaced by a simple navy sweater that hung loosely on his frame. His eyes, my eyes, the same shade of blue, were bloodshot, shadowed. He spotted me first, hesitated in the doorway, then walked over slowly. Sophia followed 2 steps behind, clutching an oversized handbag like a shield. Her auburn hair was pulled back severely, face stripped of the usual flawless makeup. She looked smaller, human. "Mom," Marcus said quietly as they reached the table. His voice cracked on the word. Sophia didn't speak. She just stared, lips pressed tight. I gestured to the chairs opposite me. "Please, sit." They did. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. A barista clattered cups nearby. Outside, traffic hummed. I let it sit. I'd waited months for this moment. They could wait a few seconds. Finally, Marcus leaned forward. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. We needed to see you." I met his gaze. Calm, unblinking. "Did you?" Sophia shifted. "Let's not play games, Elena. We know what you've done." I tilted my head slightly. "Do you?" Marcus shot her a look, sharp, pleading, then turned back to me. "The anonymous tips, the packets to reporters, the recordings, the widow you found, all of it. It traced back to the same patterns, the same timing. We figured it out." I sipped my tea, still warm. "And what exactly do you think I've done?" Sophia's voice rose, trembling with fury. "You destroyed us. My father's firm is gone. Our accounts are frozen. We're being sued by everyone we know. Marcus could go to prison, all because you couldn't handle being left out of a wedding." Her words hung in the air. A few heads turned at nearby tables. Marcus put a hand on her arm. "Sophia." She shook him off. "No, she needs to hear it. You're vindictive, petty. You weaponized lies." I set the cup down gently. The soft clink cut her off. "Let me tell you what I did," I said, voice low but clear, every word deliberate. "I protected my home when you tried to steal it. I learned enough about finance to recognize fraud when I saw it. I passed public information, complaints that were already filed, statements already made, to people whose job it is to ask questions. I made sure the truth had a clear path." I leaned forward slightly, eyes moving between them. "That's all." Sophia laughed bitterly. "That's all? You ruined lives." "No," I said. "Your father ruined lives, for years. He stole retirement savings from widows, teachers, small business owners. He built your lifestyle, your condo, your designer wardrobe, your vineyard wedding, on their money. I didn't fabricate a single document. I didn't create a single victim. I just stopped letting you hide." Marcus was staring at his hands, knuckles white. I turned to him. "You chose to believe I was toxic because it was easier than admitting you'd joined something rotten. You let them convince you I was beneath you. You lied to our family, our friends. You tried to take the house I worked my entire life for, and you did it all without ever asking me why I might be hurt." My voice stayed even. No yelling, no tears, just truth. "You excluded me from your wedding because my presence would have reminded everyone, including you, where you came from. A waitress who raised you alone, who loved you fiercely, who was proud of you every single day. You were ashamed of me." His head snapped up. "I wasn't." "You were," I said softly, "and that shame made you complicit." Sophia opened her mouth again, but I raised one hand, not dramatic, just firm. "I'm not finished." She closed it. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder, placed it on the table between us. Inside are copies of everything I sent, every tip, every email, every public record, all anonymous, all factual, nothing illegal, nothing forged. You'll see there's no smoking gun pointing to me because there doesn't need to be. The fraud was real. The collapse was inevitable. I just made sure it happened before more people lost everything. Marcus reached for the folder with shaking hands, opened it, scanned the first page. His face paled further. Sophia stared at me, eyes blazing. You think this makes you the hero? You're cruel. I looked at her, really looked, and felt only exhaustion. I think, I said slowly, cruelty is teaching a young man his mother is disposable because her job doesn't come with a trust fund. Cruelty is forging a family on lies and stolen money. Cruelty is watching someone who loved you unconditionally bleed out emotionally and doing nothing. I stood, smoothed my coat. Marcus looked up, eyes wet. Mom, please, I'm sorry. I was wrong about everything. I see that now. I don't want to lose you. The words hung there, the apology I'd dreamed of for months. I let them settle. Then I said quietly, You didn't lose me, Marcus. You threw me away. There's a difference. Sophia stood abruptly, chair scraping. This is insane. You're insane. I looked at her one last time. No, I'm awake. I turned to leave. Behind me, Marcus's voice broke. Mom, wait! I didn't stop. As I reached the door, two federal agents in plain clothes entered the cafe. One nodded politely at me as we passed. He knew who I was. I'd spoken to them weeks ago, voluntarily, with my lawyer present. Full cooperation, full immunity. They walked straight to the table. Marcus Reynolds, Sophia Harrington. One held up a badge. We need you to come with us for questioning. Sophia gasped. Marcus froze. I stepped out into the cold Chicago air. The wind hit my face, sharp and clean. My chest expanded fully for the first time in nearly a year. No weight, no knot, just release. Deep, rolling, cleansing. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The power wasn't in their arrest. It wasn't in the headlines or the frozen accounts or the shattered reputation. The power was in this. They finally saw me. Clearly, unmistakably. And they understood, too late, that the woman they'd dismissed, lied about, and tried to erase had been the strongest one in the room all along. I walked to my car, got in, and drove home. The reckoning was over. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole.
The dust settled slowly, like snow after a blizzard, quiet, inevitable, covering everything in a clean, cold layer. Victor Harrington pleaded guilty in federal court 6 months after the cafe meeting. The judge's sentence was harsh, 18 years, no parole for the first 10. He was led away in cuffs, the once polished financier now pale and shuffling, eyes fixed on the floor. Lydia sold the Lake Forest estate at a loss, moved into a modest condo up north, and stopped answering calls from anyone who'd once called her a friend. Their names faded from charity invitations and society pages, replaced by footnotes in fraud prevention seminars. Sophia filed for divorce the same week Victor was sentenced. The proceedings were ugly, public, drawn out, splashed across tabloids. She kept the engagement ring, appraised and sold at auction to pay legal fees, and little else. Last I heard, she'd taken a mid-level marketing job in Florida, far from Chicago's whispering circles. Her Instagram, briefly reactivated, showed forced smiles at brunches with new friends. The comments were disabled. Marcus avoided prison. He cooperated fully, turned over documents, testified against his father-in-law, accepted a plea for a lesser charge, probation, community service, a permanent mark on his record that closed every door in finance. He moved into a small one-bedroom in the suburbs, took a job as a barista while studying for a teaching certificate. Some nights he coached kids' soccer at the local park, the same way I'd once cheered for him under Friday night lights. He wrote me letters at first, long ones, handwritten on plain paper, apologies that filled pages, memories of childhood, me teaching him to tie his shoes, baking cookies at Christmas, crying together when our old dog died. He wrote about the pressure he'd felt to become someone bigger, how Sophia's world had dazzled him until it swallowed him, how ashamed he was for believing their lies about me. I read every one. Some I answered, short notes at first. I'm glad you're safe. Take care of yourself. Eventually, longer. Honest.
careful. We met once, 6 months after the divorce was final, neutral ground again, a park bench near the lakefront in spring. He brought coffee, I brought sandwiches. We sat in silence for a while, watching joggers and dogs chase frisbees. I lost everything because I was greedy and weak, he said finally, voice rough. But the worst part is knowing I hurt you, the one person who never asked for anything but love. I looked at him, really looked. The boy I'd raised was still in there, under the exhaustion and regret. I forgive you a long time ago, I said quietly. Not because what you did was small, but because holding on to hate was heavier than I wanted to carry. He cried then, quiet tears he didn't bother hiding. I didn't touch him, not yet, but I stayed on the bench until he was done. We're rebuilding slowly. Phone calls on Sundays, occasional dinners, boundaries, yes, healthy ones this time, mine to set. He respects them. He's earning trust the way I once earned overtime shifts, one honest day at a time. My own life grew in ways I never expected. The house stayed mine. Court ruled the quitclaim attempt coercive. I refinanced, paid off the last of the mortgage with a small settlement from the class action suit. Victims fund, my share as an indirect harmed party. I turned the spare bedroom into an office and started a little online business helping single parents navigate financial aid and scholarships, the kind of practical advice I wish I'd had decades ago. It's small, but it's growing. I mentor 3 women now. Their kids call me Miss Elena. I ran that 5K, then a 10K, then a half marathon, crossed the finish line with a time I'm proud of and a medal around my neck that no one can take away. Friends, real ones, filled the empty spaces. Rosa from the diner retired. We meet for coffee every Thursday. My cousin Denise apologized in tears and never missed a birthday after that. New people came too, running group buddies, neighbors who wave when I garden the front yard I almost lost. Some nights I still feel the echo of that first pain, the wedding photos, the blocked number, the lie that I was sick. It's a scar now, not a wound. Tender sometimes, but no longer bleeding. I think about karma a lot, not as vengeance, as balance. They tried to erase me because I didn't fit their shiny new story. But people aren't footnotes. Love isn't disposable. And truth, quiet, patient truth, always finds its voice. I found mine. I stand in my kitchen sometimes, looking at the chipped World's Best Mom mug still on the shelf. I smile now when I see it, not with bitterness, with certainty, because in the end, the silence they forced on me became the space where I learned how strong I really was. And the justice I sought, it wasn't in their fall, it was in my rising, whole, unbroken, finally, unmistakably enough. If there's one thing I hope anyone hearing this story takes away, it's this: never, ever underestimate a mother who's been told she no longer matters, because when she decides she does, the whole world shifts.